I keep trying to add smoke to this space for the dramatic effect, but it gets away pretty fast. Anyways, let's get going with the second lesson. Welcome to the timeline of After Effects. The timeline, like we've seen before, sits here on the bottom. I've already got one clip in there, but let's just add a few more in there as well. I'm going to double click into my project panel again. Let's add here Jordy walking as well. Import, and like we talked about before, I'm going to drag this into the video clips folder to have everything a bit more organized. So the composition has already been made from the previous lesson. It sits right here. It's called lesson 1, but right now we are in lesson 2, so let's rename that quickly. Now this composition right here already has a defined length, and that is kind of different as with any editing program, where you can just keep editing as long as you want. It's not really defined by length. In After Effects, it is. Currently, with that selected, I can see here in the top what the settings of that composition is. It currently has a 4K or ultra high definition resolution. We are at 25 frames per second, and it is 10 seconds long. You can also see here in a timeline that I can't really go further than that 10 seconds because it is only 10 seconds long. So if I would like this thing to be longer, I actually need to change the duration of the composition. And we can do so by right-clicking here on this composition, heading over to Composition Settings, and from there, this is the same window that you would see if you would create a new composition. On the bottom right here, we can see the duration, and we can change that to, for example, 20 seconds if you would like that this takes longer. And then just press OK. From the timeline now here on the bottom, we can zoom out using this tool right here. So either just click on these buttons on the side to zoom or zoom out in steps, or just use this slider bar. So right now you can see that this clip here is kind of half the length of the composition, which is now 20 seconds, which can also be seen here on the top. This here represents the entire duration of that composition. Usually when you are going to add clips to a timeline, you're going to do that by adding in and out points, just like with a video editing program. So to do that, you have to double click on any of your clips, like so, which will open itself up. Oh, look at that. This is actually me when I was younger. I was actually just graduated myself from being an apprentice. And right here, I was just starting with my path to becoming an expert professor, which I am right now. Just look at it. My hair and beard were a lot shorter back then. Oh, the good times. Anyways, we're going to set an in and an out point on this clip. In order to do that, we can use these two buttons here down below. So let's say that I want this clip to start from where I am beautifully in that shot. Over here, I'm going to set an in point, and you can see here what it does to the selection of our clip. Then go a little bit further in time, where I stand still maybe, and set an out point. And damn, I was so tough back then. On the bottom right here, you can now see the selection of that clip that we've made. If we are now going to drag this clip into our timeline, it will only add that particular selection to it. Now, one of the great things of After Effects is that you can always kind of see the total length of your clips, which lays here on the right side. But if I'm going to move this clip here a little bit more to the right, you can see that we also have a part on the left side. These are the parts that we haven't selected. So even from our timeline, we can trim this clip to either of the sides, and thus changing our in and out points. If you are looking for a specific point here in your timeline, let's say that you want this clip to start exactly right here, and now you would like to trim that clip over to your playhead, very simply done. Just drag it to your playhead, but hold down your Shift key on the keyboard in order to make it snap to the playheads. Same thing goes with the out point. Just go a little bit forward in time. Let's say right here, I want the clip to stop, then just trim it back to your playheads. So that is how you can make selections of your source files to work with them in the timeline. So already you can now see that we have two layers in our timeline. And hence, just like with any other program, the order of these clips are going to be important. You know, if you stack multiple papers on top of each other, the only paper that you will see is the top clip. So if I would place my playhead right here on top of this clip, I am not seeing the clip below because it lays below that. If I'm going to change the Jordy walking clip beneath the landscape clip, I will then suddenly see the landscape clip. Which, by the way, guys, I can also trim if I'd like so. as you can see over here. So you don't always need to set your in and out point in the beginning, but it does help you to specify more what you need. Like, for example, maybe you have a shot that takes about 10 minutes or something, and you only need a specific part from that. Well, then it's, of course, a lot easier to just double-click on that from the project panel and select a small part from that with the in and out selection before you drag it into your composition, like so. And like you've just seen me do, you can, of course, also make multiple selections from the source monitor and then drag that over to your composition to have multiple duplications, but maybe different parts from the same clip. So these are your layers. They can be changed in order, but also moved in time more to the right or more to the left. A timeline is a linear thing. It's the same as going from point A to point B, and everything that you will see within that path or in that journey will be played in order. So we actually first come across the middle clip here, Jordy walking, then you would come across the top clip, the first landscape, and then we would come across the last landscape clip. All right, so that is the basic understanding of the timeline. Now let's have a further look at the layers. Inside After Effects, we always name these layers and not so much clips as we would do in a video editing program, because we are compositing in here. This is more like Photoshop, but then for video. With every layer, you would see this little arrow here on the left side. Clicking onto it will expand its properties. We always have some basic properties in there, such as the transform and audio properties, and we can expand them even further by clicking again on this arrow right here. Under the transform options, we can see that we have a bunch of starting properties, such as the position. Changing the position of that clip won't do anything. As you can see, it's not doing anything, and that is because we are not standing on that clip. As you can see, my playhead stands currently here on the last layer, which we are not working on. So move your playhead on that clip, and now you can see what it does. So again, we can change that position here, as you can see. We can move it to the left, to the right, we can move it up and down, we can scale it as well, scale it down, scale it up. We can rotate that if we like so, or change its opacity and make it fade out. And these are properties that every single visual element has within your composition. So knowing this, we can actually start to combine different of these layers together, because let me just drag here Jordy walking, for example, underneath that clip as so. And already you can see that I am kind of appearing behind that layer because we are scaling that landscape clip down and we are moving it to the side so that you can see me, the layer below. Now, not only we can change these values from here within the properties, but if you click on your clip right here, you can also visually change that within the composition itself. I can move it around, but I can also decrease its scale, smush it a little bit like that, and place that anywhere else that I want to. If you want to keep the proportions while scaling it like this, then hold down your Shift key and it will do so. A good rule of thumb is to always use your Shift, Control, or Alt key whenever doing something with your mouse and it's not going the way that you want to. Usually that could fix the problem. Now, rotating this clip goes a little bit different. For that, I will actually need the rotation tool. But we can find that tool very easily within our toolbox right here. We have the rotation tool. So just click on that, and this allows us to rotate that clip. If you want to scale that clip again or move it around, then take back your normal selection tool, and now we can do that action again. Did my smoke just disappear? See, I told you, my smoke just goes away way too fast. This is not a normal class. This is a dramatic class, so we want to keep it dramatic in the background. All right, let's continue now. These are the basic properties of your layers. Now, there are a few more things that I want to show you, which are the last things within your timeline, and then we're going to stop with all the technical stuff and actually create something. Aside from the properties of the layers in the visual can also behave differently. Currently, they are just behaving normally. You have them in your timeline, you can play them, that's it. But you can see that we have a bunch of options here to the right and also here to the left. Let's start off here with the left. Very quickly, and I also think that these are going to be pretty obvious as well, we can disable the video for that specific layer by doing so. You can see that it kind of disappears, but the layer is still in there. And usually that is being used if you just want to get rid of one specific layer that is in the way, or maybe you want to get rid of all the layers because you're working on one specific layer. What you then have to do is click on the solo button, which sits right here, this little dot. Just click on that, which will disable all the layers in your timeline except for that one in specific. You can also select multiple solo layers within your timeline. But that all depends on what you're working on, just to make it yourself easy. Then on the right side here, we can find the switches. And these kind of define how your layer should behave. For example, should it be a 3D layer? By clicking on that, now it acts as a 3D layer. Should we enable motion blur? Then we can also enable that right here. But these are all things that we're going to take a look at throughout this class, so I don't want to dive too deep into these things. Next up, we've got modes. These are blending modes. We can make this layer blend with other layers. Again, it's going to behave differently. We have some more things in here, like the pick whip. We can parent or link this to another layer, etc. Again, all things that we're going to see within this class. Now, if you don't see these options, you can always right-click into your columns right here, head over to columns, and enable anything from there. It kind of works the same as your windows inside After Effects. If you can't locate anything, then just head over to the menu, select window, and select the window that you're looking for. With here, it's exactly the same. Right-click, columns, and choose the column that you need. So if you can't find the switches right here, then it might be that it is disabled like that. Now they are gone. So then you know to just right-click in your column, say columns, and select switches. That's it. And that is how the timeline works inside Adobe After Effects. In the next video, I should really stop doing that. In the next video lesson, we are going to prepare ourselves to create something stunning inside After Effects. And we're going to take a look at the libraries to start with. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you there.